Good morning, football fans. Chris here with Jäger Bombs Fantasy Sports. We got Week 6 NFL on tap here in about 2 hours. We're going to talk some DraftKings plays, some FanDuel plays, some top bets, props, prize picks, answer your questions, talk about some ownership from FanShare, where we can pivot off some chalky plays, maybe talk about, all sorts of things there, GPP plays, leverage, that sort of things. I'm just going to let a few people cycle in here and we will get started talking about that. I'm also giving away $50 today on the show, and I'm going to give out some instructions here once we see a few more people cycle in. I'll actually do it a couple times here. So what you need to do is just post up in the chat player that you think scores a touchdown today. That's all you got to do. Morning, Kenny. Happy Sunday. Got all your lineups built, or are you still working on them? Dob, how's it going, buddy? LFG. Oh, okay. So yeah, like I said, morning, John. All you need to do to enter the contest for $50 cash, I'll send it via PayPal later today. Go ahead and post. Josh Starcher, good morning, buddy. You had a good day yesterday. Hope you carry it over into today. Just post up in chat who you think is going to score a touchdown today. Player doesn't even need to score a touchdown. All they need is you to post up in the chat who's going to score a touchdown, and you are entered to win $50. I'm going to have a look at that once I finish my lineups, once I get off the show here. So really appreciate that. Still work on your lineups. Awesome. So a couple things looking at the slate here. Very interesting slate. I think a lot of the ownership, especially from cash game perspective, we're going to want a lot of exposure to these afternoon games, especially two of them. We've got Buffalo at KC. That's a 54 total. Very close game here. -2.5. Buffalo is the favorite right now. We've got Arizona in Seattle, 50.5. Total on that one, second highest one of the slate. And then we got quite a drop off after that. And that kind of takes us to, they split it up because we got Carolina Rams and Jacksonville Indy with low totals on the afternoon. So a lot of the attention is going to be on those two games with the high totals. And then after that, there's a large gap from those 50-point total games down to, we've got a bunch here. We got Minnesota at Miami, 45.5. Baltimore at the Giants, 44.5. We got the Jets at Green Bay, 45. San Francisco, Atlanta, 44.5. So when we are talking, Kenny's big wedding next Saturday. Congratulations, early congratulations. Be able to give you an official congratulations on next Sunday's live show. I'm sure you might not be able to attend. That one might be a little busy, either cleaning up, maybe a little bit tired. But we'll definitely throw you a happy wedding day next Sunday. I think in terms of cash games for sure, and I'm going to look at just a little bit of a cash build. We're going to want a lot of exposure to this Arizona, Seattle, Buffalo, Kansas City. I don't really understand why DraftKings doesn't have Josh Allen kind of in that same price range as we see Cooper Kupp. Doesn't make a lot of sense. We go and look at his game logs. We're really looking for about 24 points from him, 3x. At 8,200, 24 points is going to get us there at 3x. Well, he's obliterated that. 24, that was his lowest total this year. Other than that, he's got 30 plus. He's shown us upside of 40 against Pittsburgh last week. And now he's facing KC in this 54.5 total game. I think that's really where you're probably going to want to go for cash games. I think it makes a lot of sense for sure. Skol, Chad. Go Vikings. Let's go. Let's keep it up here today. Josh Allen definitely going to be a favorite in terms of cash game quarterbacks. I think next place people are going to want to go probably on the other side of that game and with Mahomes. And then if people are saving down, maybe they want to spend up at running back or wide receiver, which I really don't think you have to today. But if you are going with, like, say, a Cooper Kupp who gives you, speaking of Cooper Kupp, he is questionable. He's expected to play here, but what he gives you, even though his price is 9,700, you need 28 to 30 points from him. He does it every single week outside of that one Arizona game, but he's done that every single week. So if you are going that route, I think there is an option here at quarterback that we can definitely go to. And that is Geno Smith. That takes us to the second highest total in the game. They're at home. I'm not going to be going there, for my cash games. I do like it. I'm a little bit scared of the ownership. If we go over and look at the quarterbacks here, look at some of these fan share tags. He is the highest tag player on the whole entire site actually going into Sunday. So I think he's going to have a lot of ownership. Geno Smith and highest owned quarterback, highest mentioned quarterback, just doesn't sit well with me. So that's a place I'm going to talk about possibly pivoting. But it does, for cash games, I think you can definitely go there because it is cheap. We're looking for about 18 points out of him, which is going to give us a little bit over 3x. And looking at his game logs, he has been tremendous. Don't get me wrong. 24, 35, 23, one bad game versus San Francisco, which is the number one defense in the league. So I'm not really concerned about that. But even Denver in week 1, it was his first game starting. It was against, and I know Denver hasn't been great, but they're still a top defense. Still give us that almost 3x on return on that 5,700. It was definitely 3x at his 5K price tag there in week 1, but he's definitely got there. So that makes a lot of sense if you want to pay out for your running backs and your wide receivers. Now on the sheet this week, sharing all my plays with you. The other quarterback I like here is Tom Brady going up against Pittsburgh. 8-point favorites. The only concern with Brady possibly, and we can find things, knocks against all of these players, but Brady's knock would be against him is Fournette getting the touchdowns, which we have seen here recently. If we go look at Brady, although I'm not completely concerned because now that Brady's got his weapons back, we talked about it in last week's show, he is really starting to crush. So 271 yards. I think he had Evans back in that game and then he got Evans and Godwin back over the last two, and he's got 350 plus yards in both of those, 22.7 and 29 fantasy points. So he even got there 23 fantasy points last week. Wasn't obviously enough with Josh Allen getting about 50 fantasy points in the first half alone. And good thing going for Josh Allen this week, adding to him a little bit, is the fact that he's facing KC and Patrick Mahomes, who should be able to keep this game close, which, we probably see some Josh Allen second half stuff here as well. And Buffalo likes to throw more than any other team in the league. Randall's favorite play. Yeah, definitely. So that kind of brings us to some pivots in terms of quarterbacks and some places I like going. So we're going to see some ownership on Josh Allen, obviously. We're going to see some on Patrick Mahomes. I think we're going to see some on Brady and then Geno Smith. So up in the top range, I like pivoting to Lamar Jackson. With that, over at the tight end here, I like pairing him with Mark Andrews, who I think if people are going to be paying up at tight end today, it's going to be Travis Kelce, just because of that highest total game. I think a lot of leverage today for GPPs can be had in loading up on some of these early games, which people will be loading up on, obviously, those two high total games in the second half of games this afternoon. So Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, pair them together is going to get you some leverage off the quarterback position. It's going to get you some leverage off of Kelce at the tight end position. And I think Zach Ertz is also going to be very high owned here as well in that second highest total of the game. His upside really hasn't been here this year. He hasn't given you that GPP winning upside, but the floor has been tremendous. Double-digit points in every single game. He's got double-digit targets in 3 of his last 4, and he's given you 40-plus receiving yards in 4 straight there as well. The other thing I like about Ertz here, while he has only got 2 touchdowns on the season, if we go look at his usage here, he's got 11 red zone targets, which is second only behind Travis Kelce. Higbee makes a lot of sense. Now, going over on, I'm going to give you a look at the DFSR projections and lineup for the main here. Doug was just arguing about this with someone in chat just about 5 minutes ago before I jumped on the show. And I talked about this with Ryan actually on the Discord channel for Jägerbombs Fantasy Sports before this. I'm not myself comfortable with 3 Rams in cash games. Doug loves it, and he makes a very valid argument. I'm not going to really argue against it. They're 11-point favorites. At home, I believe. Give me just a second here. Scroll down. Yeah, at home versus Carolina. Kupp, we know his high floor. Henderson's jumping in. Cam Akers is out. Very good price at 5,700 over on FanDuel. And Higbee's just getting all the targets. So we talk about this in the past lots where they're the highest concentration team. It's like something like 58%. And for anyone that's not seen this site before, I'm going to talk about it every single week because I absolutely love it, is nflsavant.com, free site to go and do some research. We're going to click on the Rams. We're going to look at their targets, and we look at their 2 top guys. It's 57, almost 58% of their Matthew Stafford's targets in that offense are going to 2 players. There's no other team that has just 2 players taking up that much target share. So he makes a very valid argument. For me, 3 just seems a little bit too much. But if that's the way you want to go, I just think that's really taking you away from some of that exposure in that Arizona, Seattle, and Buffalo KC game. But he does have Josh Allen in here as the top guy. But if I'm playing Josh Allen in cash, I think I want to pair him with Stephon Diggs. It gives you a little bit of savings off of Cooper Kupp. You can maybe go with Higbee and Henderson there if you wanted to. I'm a little bit different with my running backs, and we do actually separate a little bit once we start going down some of these lineups here. Kamara is obviously a favorite. He's in 50% of the 10 lineups I have here, 5 of the 10. Henderson's in 100% at just 5,700. That's a tremendous price. I mean, it's hard to argue with that as an 11-point home favorite. We love to see that for our running backs. Home favorites, big spreads, and fairly high total. I mean, well, not really, actually 41.5, but that mostly comes in on the Carolina side, being a 10-point underdog here. Morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If for anyone that's just jumping in here now, I'm giving away $50 today. All you have to do is comment in the chat with a player that you think is going to score a touchdown. Doesn't even have to score a touchdown. All I want you to do is just go ahead and comment who you think is going to score a touchdown today. And you know what? I'm going to throw a $25 bonus on there if your player does score a touchdown. So I will actually wait to hand out this until the main slate is over today. I have a randomizer that's going to go in and pick one comment out of there, and I'll just keep doing it until I get at one of the comments that is actually picking a player for a touchdown. If that player scores a touchdown, yeah, Lazard, Randy, I'm with you there. If that player scores a touchdown today, I'll give you a $25 bonus as well. So that's $75 if your player gets a touchdown. So $50 just for picking and commenting in chat someone that you think is going to get a touchdown, and $25 extra if that player does actually score a touchdown. And I do like Lazard here today, Green Bay as a favorite. So that's just a look here at my lineups are going to be a little bit different than what the DFSR optimizers. I always run the DFSR, usually the top 2 lineups. You know, if I'm running 20, I'll do 18 of my own, 2 here. Justin Jefferson, I love it. Skol, baby. Okay, so back to the NFL Savant here. A couple things I wanted to look at regarding the Arizona-Seattle game. Obviously, we're going to see some ownership, and I'm just going to flip over to the wide receiver position here and talk about that here for a second. I'm going to jump around a bit unless anyone's got any specific questions, because there are some things I want to talk about today, some things that I added to the sheet I want to talk about as well. So looking at, I don't know why we're sorted this way, but just give me a second. Okay, so what we see here with the Seattle is DK Metcalf's price only went up I think it was $200 or $300 this week, which I do still like at $6,800. But Tyler Lockett's price did not go up on DraftKings. $5,600 is just crazy. And then Chris Godwin, $6,100. So the reason I like Godwin, I'm going to go back over to the NFL Savant tools, and I'm going to look at Pittsburgh's defense giving up yards through the middle. As we see, they've given up a league-high 763 yards down the middle of the field. Now, if we switch that up and we just start looking at outside, give me just a second and I will plug that in here and I'll show you what really has me on Godwin as the core play. And I mean, he's going to be higher owned for sure just because of that price. It's kind of same thing as Lockett where the price didn't really go up a whole bunch. But looking at the outside for Pittsburgh, big splits here. I talked about it in chat. They are 7th fewest yards on the outside versus the league most on the inside. So that's where Godwin runs about 70% of his routes. So that really has me on Godwin. Now, for GPPs, here's a couple things that I really like in that specific, not even just that specific game, but let's go to, give me just a second here. Going over to Arizona. We want to look at Arizona here. So Arizona on the outside. It's a Seattle-Arizona game. They're both top 5 in giving up yards on the outside. Now, if we go and switch that back to the middle for those two teams specifically, it's an opposite split from what we see with the Pittsburgh kind of things. They're kind of in the middle here in terms of down the middle. So that kind of has me, for GPPs a little bit off of Lockett and pivot into Metcalf, who's going to be more expensive. And then obviously on the Arizona side of things, Rondale Moore is the cheaper one. I think a lot of people are going to be going to him probably for cash. Marquise Brown could end up being the cheaper one. He runs most of his routes on the outside. So I think that's going to be my pivot in that Seattle-Arizona game. If you want to get a little bit different, is going off of Rondale Moore and Tyler Lockett and going with DK Metcalf and Marquise Brown. Now, in my stacks of those Seattle, Arizona, I'm more inclined to go with Kyler Murray here. I think we're going to see a Kyler Murray ceiling game. So I don't mind double stacking that because, I mean, if we're going to go with Kyler Murray, he's not running as much as he used to. So when I'm going with a stack on a high total game, I really like double stacking that. I'll probably go Kyler Murray, Marquise Brown is my favorite way to go. Probably add Rondale Moore in there and then run it back with, if you want to get a little bit different, like I said, instead of going Tyler Lockett, we can run that back with DK Metcalf. On the other side, if you want to go Geno Smith, DK Metcalf. I don't mind running that back with Marquise Brown. I think that's a way to get away from the Geno Smith super chalk. If you're running Geno Smith, it's a little bit different than probably the chalk Geno Smith stacks, which is going to be like Lockett and Rondale Moore, and probably even Zach Ertz, which I mentioned Zach Ertz upside really hasn't been there. He's a really high floor guy. He's more of a cash game play for me than a GPP tight end. If you're looking for some tight ends, speaking of tight ends, jumping around again, but we're going to see some ownership on Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, I talked about, probably Tyler Higbee. I'm not on him today. It's more not even so much the matchup because Carolina's mid. They're just the guys that I like there. So Zach Ertz for cash, Travis Kelce if you're paying up in cash. Mark Andrews is going to be low owned. I talked about liking him quite a bit. George Kittle I think is going to be very low owned. The prices keeps coming down. I mean he hasn't been great. He's been blocking a lot, but he's still got that talent. He's still Jimmy Garoppolo's guy in terms of if you're not looking at Deebo Samuel. So I think he's going to be very low owned, and that's another way to pivot off of some of this high owned tight ends today. For value, Will Dissly, I'm looking at. He's only 3,100 today on DraftKings, which I definitely like. I think that's a way you could probably go in cash as well if you're spending up elsewhere. And then running backs. We haven't talked about running backs yet. There's a lot of chalk on the running backs. I don't know why the sheet sorted the way it did, but I'll sort it back here. So at the top, I think we're going to see some lower ownership today. I don't have him highlighted, but I should. He was before. I like Nick Chubb. He's always low owned, like 5%, 4% owned. He's a touchdown monster. They're a favorite. New England has been pretty good against the running back again, so that's going to lead to some lower ownership there with him. Saquon Barkley, he makes up the whole entire Giants offense, but I think he's going to be a little bit lower owned. Aaron Jones is going to be very low owned. Dalvin Cook's going to be low owned today. I think a combination of paying up for running backs going to help you differentiate your lineups there a little bit as well. Leonard Fournette is going to, as an 8-point favorite here against Pittsburgh. Fournette's going to see some ownership. I think Jeff Wilson. I like pairing Jeff Wilson with the 49ers defense. I think there's some correlation there that makes a lot of sense. Damian Harris, I don't know if he's been 100% ruled out, but I think he's doubtful, and I heard that he's possibly going to miss multiple weeks. Ramondre Stevenson's been getting a lot of love. Makes a lot of sense. He's actually shown, I wanted to go bring him up here. He's shown us some upside, 20, 13, and 22.5. So 20 or more points in 2 of his last 3 games. Well, that's with Harris in there and Harris vulturing some of those touchdowns on the goal line. Stevenson, he's got 5+ targets in 2 of those 3 games, 20+ receiving yards in 2 of those 3 games as well. So I think he can get involved no matter if the Patriots are leading or if they are coming from behind. So I think that makes sense for Stevenson. If we had that Harris news earlier in the week, or even going into last week or whatever, I think he's probably a $7,000, like a Leonard Fournette level of pricing. And if he has a good week and Harris is, if he is going to be out a couple weeks, I think we do see him in that $6,500 to $7,000 range going into week 7. Singletary, I think I like him a lot just simply because they're, high total game. Buffalo's a favorite here. I don't think he's going to be too terribly high owned because there's some value guys that we're going to talk about that are going to take up the chalk today. Singletary is a guy that kind of fits in between the high priced, kind of down here in this mid tier, and it gives you access. If you don't have a lot of Buffalo KC, it's a way to differentiate your lineups but still get access to that very high total game. He has shown upside in those games. I mean, you compare him with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's going to get his like every single week, but 9 for 13, didn't get a touchdown. He had the 11 receiving yards for 78 yards and a touchdown that got him to that 24 points against Miami. In this high total game, I think he's kind of looking at 50 to 80 yards rushing with another, say, 10 to 20, 25 yards receiving. And if he scores a touchdown or even gets in the end zone twice, that's going to be a great pivot play off of, say, Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie. Dawson Knox is back in the lineup today. It's gonna be a way to be a little bit different in terms of your Buffalo KC game there. So I definitely like Devin Singletary. Now the chalk plays that I was talking about, we got Kenneth Walker for Seattle, getting a lot of love, very cheap in this second highest total game. And then the other guy in the game on the other side is Eno Benjamin. 4,600 on DraftKings is going to be very high on, probably one of your, in terms of cash games. I think Eno Benjamin and Ramondre Stevenson are going to be probably two of the top three running backs in terms of ownership. I think that's a great way to go. We got Darrell Henderson. We talked about him already. Now a pivot off of Darrell Henderson, who I'm not personally on Darrell Henderson myself today. I'm just not there. We'll just go with that. I'm pivoting off a little bit in my GPP lineup to Travis Etienne. I want to be on this game, Travis Etienne. I hate saying his name. I want to be on that ceiling game before, he goes off. He's been good. He's been splitting time with James Robinson, who's been good, but he's starting to come around. 10 rushes, 71 yards. So he's not quite getting that volume yet. But as soon as he gets 15 to 20 touches in a game and gives you that, that was his best game last week, 14.4. But as soon as he gives you that 18 to 22 point DK output, even FanDuel output, he's going to be high owned. You're not going to get him at 5% ownership anymore. Next week, we're going to see him probably in that 10 to 15 range, and he's probably going to be there for the rest of the year. Jacksonville's been a good team. In terms of their rushing O-line, I want to go have a look at that here real quick. Rushing O-line has actually been terrible, 30th, so it hasn't been great, but I think that opens up some targets for him. And like I said, I want to be on him before the crowd gets on him. And if people are going to be on Darrell Henderson today, I'm going to be on Etienne at probably half or more the ownership. So that's where I'm at the bottom here in terms of running backs. I'm not worried about Eno Benjamin. He's looked very good. High total game. He's just too cheap. If that injury news came out before pricing came out, again, he's probably I want to say like a 5,500 somewhere in this Kenneth Walker range. And I think Kenneth Walker should be in the high fives, low six range, kind of with that Devin Singletary. So definitely underpriced on the running backs here today. One that I think is going to be super low owned, talked about him in the chat a little bit, with Jonathan Taylor out, Nyheim Hines is out, Deion Jackson in that Indy Jacksonville game. Jacksonville is 24th in fantasy points to running backs. They give up the sixth most receiving yards to running backs, and he's going to be like 2% owned in GPPs. I definitely like going there. It's a close game. I think Indy could possibly even win this game. That might even be a bet for me. It's not finalized there yet. They're kind of on my leans right now, I guess you could say. Haven't locked it in yet. I'm going to talk about some bets that I like here just shortly, so stay tuned with me. I know, Steve, you're on here waiting for that. I got a question here. I'm going to go over some now. 3-3, I see you got two questions. I'm going to go over both of them here. PJ Walker, DJ Moore, that's going to be like 1-2% owned, and they really don't need a whole bunch. Now, I wanted to mention QBs, if I can get my mouse over here. Scrolling down, there's two. Actually, not personally on PJ Walker myself. I see I haven't updated the projection here yet. Sorry about that. PJ Walker at 4,900, you're only looking for if he hits 15 points, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, that's getting you 3x. If he hits you 20x or 20 points, you're sitting pretty good. DJ Moore, they're both going to be like 2-3% owned. So I'm fine with that. I also like Skylar Thompson here going up against Minnesota. I wanted to bring up his player card here real quick. It was an ugly 57% completion percentage last week, but he now has a full week of practice with the ones and Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle to get things down. So I think we can probably even see that 15 to 20 points from him, which would be awesome at very low ownership. Kind of the same style of play as the PJ Walker play. And then you can kind of, you could take that with Tyreek Hill, pair him with Tyreek Hill and run that back with Justin Jefferson. That's going to get you some separation in large field GPPs as well. So yes, I don't think it's stupid at all. I think it's crazy for sure. So is playing Skylar Thompson, definitely crazy, but I think it can definitely work out. And then you mentioned Gentry with Freiermuth out. I'm totally fine with that. I won't have any today. Tampa Bay is a pretty good defense, so I don't really like going there. I'd rather go with Disley if you're going for a cheaper tight end, but that's where I'm at there. So, Steve, a couple of picks that I'm on today. I just need to bring up my bet card. I've got 4 picks that I've got. Just need to log in and auto log me out here, and I'll bring up the 4 picks that I like the most, my 2 favorites right now on my bet card. So first of all, I like Arizona minus 2.5 versus Seattle. Again, I really high on Kyler Murray in the offense today. I think it's a close game, but getting a field goal win for Arizona, I think is doable. I like that minus 109. I got that one at. I like Cleveland minus 2.5 against the Patriots, starting Bailey Zappi. Definitely with Cleveland in that game. Minnesota minus 3 going up against Skylar Thompson. I think the Minnesota defense, which is going to be popular for DFS today, I think they can take care, maybe create a couple turnovers. I think a 3-point favorite is fine. And that kind of brings you back to, I like Minnesota winning the game, which Skylar Thompson makes some sense if you want to go deep field GPPs, because I think Skylar's probably going to have to throw 30 to 40 times in this game. And like I said, he doesn't necessarily need to bomb it down the field. He's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who are 2 of the best wide receivers in terms of yak yards. And then I like the Bengals. Haven't talked about this a whole bunch yet, but I really like the Bengals minus 3 going up against the New Orleans Saints. They're not going to have Jameis Winston back under center. It's still going to be Andy Dalton. So I do like the Bengals defense a little bit there as well. But I think this is the Bengals, one of the get-right games. And I think, there's going to be a lot of ownership on Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Tom Brady. Joe Burrow is going to be very low owned. I don't think you need a lot in your large field GPPs to be more than the field. I think it's probably going to be 5%. So if you're doing 20 max and you run him twice, I think you're more than the field. Again, going back to wide receiver, I think Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp are going to be your highest owned up top. So there's some leverage there with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So pairing Burrow and Chase together, I think makes a lot of sense for a very low owned build in large field GPPs, because if people aren't paying up for Kupp and Diggs, I think they're going down to not even Hollywood Brown. We talked about that, where I think Rondale Moore is going to be the favorite to pair with Kyler here today. Mike Evans, Godwin's going to be the favorite to pair with Brady. So I think both of those are going to be a little bit lower owned here, but people are going to be going down to, like I said, Godwin, Lockett are going to be probably 2 of your top 3 in ownership in terms of the wide receiver. So those are my 4 bets. Out of those 4 bets, the 2, I'm going to run those 4 in a parlay. My 2 favorites I'm going to be betting singles today is Minnesota minus 3 and Cincinnati minus 3. Very close on Arizona, but I think that is a very close game and it could go either way. So I'm just going to include the Arizona minus 2.5 in my parlay. Same with the New England Cleveland. I think that's going to be a close, boring under. A lot of running from both sides. Ramondre Stevenson, Nick Chubb. A lot of those 2 guys today. So I think that's going to be a close field goal game. I think it could go either way. So that's just going to be 2 adds to my 2 main games, because I think Cincinnati and Minnesota both roll today. I definitely like those as my main picks. So something I added to the sheet here this week, I haven't been able to add it to the over on the wide receiver tab yet. Last week I added air yards, yak yards, and then air yards plus yak yards to kind of give you a look at some upside wide receivers. Looking at guys that are obviously getting a lot of air yards. So continuing on with that air yards this week, what I have done is, if you come over to all these orange tabs, which are your research tabs, and go over to advanced receiving, this is where we find all the air yards plus yak yards. We've got the yak yards here. We've got YBC is your air yards, yards before the catch. So if you go over and look at that, what I have done over on the air yards percentage is, we can go ahead now and let me just, no, don't want to do that. Sort the sheet. We can see, first of all, it gives us information on teams that throw the most, have the most air yards. Obviously, Buffalo right there at the top. We got New Orleans, Seattle, Miami. These are teams that maybe we want to target if you are stacking in GPPs, teams that are, not just dinking and dunking down the field, and they're going to give you that upside. Look at the teams, first of all. We can then go and sort by players, see which players are getting the most air yards on those teams. So Tyler Lockett right there leads the league, 360 air yards. His team was number 3. But then something else that I added this week with the help of Doug over DFSR, because I had a lot of issues with putting together the formula, and he is a formula guru, is looking at the percent of air yards that a player gets of his own team's air yards. So Denver, 620 air yards. Cortland Sutton gets 335 of Denver's 620 air yards this season, which is 54%. That is just mind-boggling. We'll talk about that. I think that's Monday Night Football. We have another Russell Wilson Monday Night Football game, or primetime game, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So definitely looking at Cortland Sutton for upside. Marquise Brown, number 2 at 48%. Justin Jefferson, 45%. A.J. Brown's getting a lot of his team's air yards. Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett. So he leads the league in air yards, and he's 43% of Seattle's air yards. So Metcalf's getting a lot more of the throws closer to the line of scrimmage, more your possession guy, and I think he has more yards after the catch, whereas Lockett's getting more of the throws downfield, which kind of creates a little bit more upside there. So again, that's going to be why he's popular. Also mind-boggling is seeing Mark Andrews is just getting so many of the Baltimore air yards. Now, speaking of Baltimore, Rashad Bateman is out. Another value play that I like today. If you are stacking, just let me get rid of this form that I created. For anyone that's on the sheet, maybe not on the show, could be a little bit annoying. Anyways, back over to wide receivers. I'm just going to search him up here. Devin Duvernay. Makes a lot of sense. I think Pickens is going to be a popular value play just because people are going to be running that back with your Brady, Evans, Godwin stacks, looking for a run back. We've got Alec Pierce for Indy, who I like as a value wide receiver today. Going up against Jacksonville again, what's going to be a close game. Low total, but it's going to be a close game, and he's actually been very impressive. For 4,300, we're only looking for about 12 to 15 points. If he gets any more than that, he's kind of going to be smashing, probably close to the optimal. I like Devin Duvernay. He's catching the ball 85% rate, so that's nice to see. He's only got 20 targets, but he's caught 17, 3 touchdowns, 4 red zone targets already this season. He's kind of up there in terms of your air yards plus yak yards, which I like to see. But again, back to the pivoting off of the high total games for GPPs, large field GPPs, is stacking Lamar, and I don't mind double stacking him at all and going with Lamar, Andrews, and then the cheap guy with Duvernay. Maybe running that back with, you could run that back with Barkley. It's going to be expensive, and that's going to lead you to probably another one of these value. It's going to lead you to an Eno Benjamin. Probably as a cheap running back, probably going to lead you to like an Alec Pierce. Darius Slayton is another one you could run back in that Baltimore stack. He's only 3,800, and it's kind of mind-boggling last week going up against, who did they play last week? Green Bay. Caught 6 of 7 for 79. He was like the only running back out there. So I definitely like running that back with him. He hit your 303x return last week. So if you're going with that Baltimore Giants stack and you don't want to go too expensive, running it back with Barkley, I think Slayton or Richie James, probably not Richie James. He's more of a floor guy. I think Slayton's got more of the upside. So I think you can go there as well. All right. And if you're into narratives, we talked about it in chat. Some guys were posting it. So I thought I would bring it up. Pretty funny. Is quarterbacks wearing their wide receivers jerseys today? So first of all, Joe Burrow this morning got off the bus wearing Jamar Chase's college championship jersey from LSU. So there's one right there for you. Burrow Chase, love that. Another one was Tom Brady, and this is because I think Ryan said he lost a bet or something. I have to ask one of the Tampa fans, but he's wearing Chris Godwin's jersey. Godwin's already high owned, so I mean, if that's going to drive any more ownership, I don't think this drives ownership whatsoever. But it was just interesting to see. I just wanted to bring that up here today. So we talked about DFSR. Next thing I wanted to talk about was some PrizePicks plays on the new PrizePicks tabs that we've got here. There's a few that I do like. So you can come over here. Anything in these gold, that's where you're going to see actual prize projections. And then I've got some stats over here that are color-coded. Green, obviously good. Red, bad. So for passing, we've got the projected passing yards. We've got their passing yards per game on the season. We've also got the defense's passing rank against. So Tom Brady's one that I like. He's set at 285.5. He's only thrown for 281.8. I don't think we should concentrate on that as much because early in the season, he wasn't throwing for a lot of yards simply because Evans and Godwin were hurt. Gage was hurt. Julio was hurt. Brait was hurt. So there's a lot of stuff there that kind of makes that cloudy. It's a great matchup against Pittsburgh. I think Brady exceeds 285. I think he exceeds 300 today. So I like that. I think that's a good prop. You can go ahead and bet the over if you're on a site where you're just betting prop for PrizePicks. Definitely one of the plays that I like today. Kyler Murray's only set at 255 yards and has an excellent matchup against Seattle, who, like I said, give us a lot of yards on the outside. So that's like DK Metcalf. He's got two really good or DK Metcalf, wrong side, Marquise Brown, and then he's got Rondale Moore, who is again back and healthy. Benjamin catches balls as well, so I think he can get over that 255.5 in that second highest total game. That seems like it's a little bit low. Probably, I think the books have it set at like 258 or even some at 260 plus. So I think that makes a lot of sense there with Kyler Murray. Those are my two favorite pass catchers in terms of over. Running backs today, Ramondre Stevenson at 79.5. If we go look at Ramondre here, 79.5. He's gone just over once on there, but 66, 73. The 66 and 73 were with Harris in the lineup. So being that he's going to be there on his own today, commanding that backfield, given that Harris is out, I would want to double check that. I haven't been able to jump over to that during the show here, but I believe Harris is going to be out. So I'm not really worried about that. I think he gets in the 90 plus range today. I think there's going to be a lot of running in that game, like I've already mentioned, and it is an elite matchup. Cleveland is dead last in DVOA versus the rush this season. So I like Ramondre over 79.5. I like Jeff Wilson. He's been getting like all the bulk of the workload in the San Francisco backfield. I like pairing them, like I said, for DFS with the San Francisco defense. And 66.5 yards, I definitely like there for Jeff Wilson. We're going to go have a look at his player card. 120, 74, 75, 84. So he's gone over in 4 straight games. That was with other running backs involved, and he's been getting more and more workload in that offense. So that seems a little bit low at 66.5. I am on that. Thanks, Steve, for posting that Harris is officially out. I think inactives just came out starting about 5-6 minutes ago. So I appreciate the help and chat, you guys. Truly appreciate you guys joining the show. And for anyone that hasn't been here the whole time, I'm giving away $50. Oh, I just seen that pop up on my phone. You beat the Sleeper app updates on my phone. Thanks, Steve. Really appreciate that. For anyone that didn't hear already, I'm giving $50 away today. All you have to do is post in chat a player that you think is going to get a touchdown. I'm going to go over that once the main slate is over. The reason I'm waiting until the main slate is over is because if that player scores a touchdown, I'm going to add an extra $25 on there and send you $75 via PayPal once the main slate is over today. Appreciate all of you coming on the show. We're getting more and more viewers each and every week, so I'm going to keep doing this. And also want to let everyone know here before we go, I've also started doing showdown shows. We started that on Thursday Night Football. Went very well. Had some viewers on, had a lot of questions and interaction. That's really what's key for me to do these live shows is interaction, people in chat, asking questions, that sort of thing. I see Bob mentioned, I'm just scrolling up through the chat. I'm not worried about Philip Lindsay. He was in there and expected to do things, and Deion Jackson was the one that took it. Deion Jackson looked very good. So Deion Jackson is the guy that I'm going to in terms of GPPs today. So I'm not worried about Philip Lindsay. He's been back and forth between the practice squad and not really practicing with the ones. It's Deion Jackson that's practicing with the ones. He's the one that looked better last week. So definitely there. Over Philip Lindsay. I'll have 0 Philip Lindsay, and I am not concerned. But yeah, back to the showdown show. Thursday went over very well. We cashed with the lineup that I posted in chat. I'm going to do a Sunday Night Football and a Monday Night Football showdown show, see how those go with the interaction and how many people are joining it. It seems like people want it, so I will have that show. I'll post that in chat later and on social media for you guys to tune in later. I'm going to probably do it the same, about 45 minutes to 60 minutes before lock. So we can kind of go over things. We'll have the inactives. I'll provide a couple of cores, a cash core, and then a couple of GPP pivot cores with some top captains. And I'll go over my rankings during the show as well. Talk about some props, talk about some bets. Love doing these shows. And then next week, for anyone that plays DFS NHL, I had some people ask for it. I'm going to be doing 2 to 3 live shows next week for some bigger slates. For some reason, there's no hockey today, which it's awesome. More time for my eyes to be concentrated on football for my screens, 4 screens going. But we're going to be doing some NHL live shows as well, and possibly throwing in a PGA show. So lots of stuff going on. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, smash the like button on these. Lots of comments, share them with your friends. I truly appreciate it. And I will keep doing all these shows for you guys. Okay, back to PrizePicks here. Talked about Ramondre Stevenson, Jeff Wilson are my top 2 running backs. Overs today, and I usually only talk overs. Overs are just so much more fun. Tom Brady, Kyler Murray at quarterback. Now, receivers, there's Deion Jackson, and the reason I like this is 15.5 receiving yards projection I talked about Jacksonville. They give up the 6th most receiving yards to running backs. So I like that. Maybe a close game. And he had 62 rushing yards, 4 for 4 for 29 receiving yards last week. I think he's kind of going to be in that 3-4, maybe even upwards of 5 targets again here this week. Matt Ryan likes to dump it off to his running back, so I definitely like that. And getting over the 15.5, I think he's somewhere probably in the 18 to 25 receiving yards. So I definitely like that one. On the over, that would be more of my 5th favorite out of those 5 that I've already mentioned. And then coming to the wide receivers, Chris Godwin over 60.5. I talked about how Pittsburgh gives up a ton of yards down the middle of the field. So Chris Godwin, I think this is going to be his week. In terms of just regular classic DFS, I like it. I think this could be the week where he exceeds 100 plus. Maybe the double touchdown for him would be awesome to see. But for PrizePicks, we don't even necessarily need that. Another average week where he gets 65 receiving yards, no touchdowns, going to get you there on PrizePicks at that 60.5 receiving yards projection. And then Devin Duvernay, talked about him as well in this game, going up against the Giants, who are weaker against the pass. 37.5 receiving yards for him. And if we go look at his player card here, 54, 51, 42, 54. So he has gone over in 4 or 5 games. So I definitely like his prop here this week as favorites going up against the Giants. Like I said, I already like the Baltimore stack. So he just kind of fit in there with my PrizePicks. Now, kickers. Kickers are new on the sheet here for PrizePicks. Definitely like going that way. We got Graham Gano, I like at over. He's averaging 2.6 field goals per game, averaging 2.2 made field goals per game. I definitely like that. Chase McLaughlin here. I think this is going to be a close game. So I think he's going to be for me as well, although he only averages 2 per game, 1.8, but I'm definitely going to go there. And then Sunday Night Football, Brett Maher, averaging 2.8, mainly because the Cowboys just don't score a lot of touchdowns. They're having kind of trouble getting the ball into the end zone here. So I think that route kind of continues. I think he gets kind of 3 attempts, probably makes 2 of them, probably even 3 for 3 here tonight. That's kind of my call. So you're probably going to see him on the Showdown show talking about him as a value play for Showdown tonight as well. All right. Do we have any more questions? Throw them out in chat. And for anyone that is maybe just tuning in here at the end, make sure to go back to the start of the show if you want to get all the content here. Make sure to post a player that you think is going to get a touchdown. Enter for that $50 cash that I'm going to send after the main slate's over today. And if that player gets a touchdown, 25 bonus dollars for you. Anyone that is not a Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports member, you're just tuning in the show for the first time, come join our winning community today over at Patreon, www.patreon.com/JagerBombs. $10 a month if you're just playing one sport. That's US dollars. That gets you the cheat sheet. That gets you the chat. That gets you, we have multiple coaches in there every week. We've got our Discord channels, which is the news channels. The cheat sheet, like you can see on here, all the tabs that I've got for research. Tons of stuff. I've got a tutorial sheet out if you want to check that out. Like I said, one-on-one coaching with coaches. There's a lot of value for just $10 a month. That is, if we're looking in terms of week, every single week, that's only $2.50 per week of football. Awesome value. You're not going to find that kind of value anywhere else. And if you play multiple sports, we're currently offering over 10 right now that are going. I would name them off, but it would take me forever. We've got 4 coaches covering 10 plus sports, $20 a month, which is the price of just 2 sports, but you get 10 sports. www.jagerbombs.com, www.patreon.com/jagerbombs. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I truly appreciate it. We'll see you Sunday Night Football, and then Monday Night Football tomorrow, and then we'll get into the NHL shows next week as well. Oh, we got Mock Mustang jumping in last minute with a Chubb touchdown. I love that. I think that can definitely hit. Bob is pumped for NHL. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Richard McKinnon in here with a Chase touchdown. Awesome, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you tonight. Oh, also, forgot to mention, we got the NASCAR show coming up here at, I think it's 1:15 p.m. Eastern. It's 11:15 my time, so I'm going to go finish my NFL lineups, set up the NASCAR show, and I'll see you in for the NASCAR show and then Sunday Night Ball. Cheers, everyone. See you in the Winning Picks channel after the main slate.